Neva? 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 Neva! Back in 2016, Nomada Studio released their first game, which was a meditation on grief, rendered in some of the most gorgeous visuals I've ever seen in a 2D platformer. I had only gotten around to trying out Gris a few months ago, and while it's a beautiful game, I found myself wanting something a little more mechanically engaging. For all the powerful themes and imagery, as a game it was all about thoughtful exploration, puzzles, and occasional set-piece moments. And then, as if by fate, I saw a trailer for Neva, a new game from Nomada that featured combat and an animal companion. I was immediately sold. I was out of state at the time that it came out, but I still made it a point to start playing the game by booting it up on my Steam Deck. I was pretty eager, as you can tell. The setup for Neva is fairly straightforward. You play as a woman named Alba, accompanied by a couple dog-like creatures, a pup and their parent. After a short, peaceful introduction, the forces of darkness are introduced as our antagonistic threat. The game uses a beautiful cinematic reminiscent of a Disney film to set things off, and after that, you're off on your adventure with Neva, the younger dog creature. The rest of the game takes place over the course of a year, separated into seasons, over which time Neva grows from a pup into a full adult. And the gameplay dynamic changes as he ages. There's a very gradual curve to this game in terms of complexity. It's really simple in the beginning, giving you plenty of time to come to grips with moving and jumping, while developing a relationship with Neva. After a little while, the combat is introduced with a simple 3-hit combo and small groups of basic enemies. Alba has 3 flowers representing her health at the bottom of the screen. If she loses any health, it can be regained by landing hits. 6 hits will get you 1 flower back. Beyond attacking, Alba can double jump or dodge to avoid taking damage. Dodging in the air will perform an air dash, which feels pretty good, whether it's in combat or just exploring the platforming sections. There are a handful of other abilities that are very evenly given over the course of the game, including a new platforming mechanic introduced in the last 45 minutes that I kinda wish was added earlier, because it's pretty fun. In general, I was hoping for a little more mechanical complexity from the gameplay. Maybe another ability or two, something to spice up the 3-hit combo, just something to add a little more pizzazz to my toolkit. But it is an improvement from Gris in this regard. And while they may not give you a ton of different abilities, there is still plenty of challenge to be found. There are a number of platforming puzzles to tackle throughout the game, especially if you go after the collectibles. I often felt quite proud about navigating these challenges and reaching these flowers. And there are some fairly challenging combat encounters as well. Now, it's not going to make you tear your hair out, but there were a fair few battles that caused me to fail 3 or 4 times before clearing the encounter. And that felt like a pretty good balance to me. I'm no stranger to difficult games, but honestly, I like a game that just provides a little bit of resistance instead of shoving me against a wall and giving me a swirly. Neva's not a cakewalk, but it'll provide you with a decent challenge. Moving on to the visuals. Honestly, a little bit of a mixed bag for me. In the first hour or so, I found the art style to be a little underwhelming compared to Gris. But I wouldn't go as far as to say it's objectively a downgrade, just stylistically different in a way that I don't personally enjoy as much. All that being said, there are still some amazing visuals in this game. There's an excellent sense of scale and wonder in the world that Nomada has created. Great use of color, with plenty of interesting things going on both in the foreground and the background. Not to mention they do a really good job of visually communicating what you need to do and where you need to go without being overbearing. I did find myself occasionally wishing the camera were pulled in a little closer to Alba, but at the same time there was often a lot of cool stuff to see that required the camera to be out pretty far. This game has some things going for it narratively too. There's very little dialogue spoken, with most of it being Alba calling out to Neva, so a lot of the storytelling is visual. Obviously a huge part of the story is the bond that these two develop, but the other big aspect seems to be focused on nature. The big scary force of darkness seems to negatively impact the environment, and each chapter ends with defeating a big foe and seeing nature return in force. I'm honestly reminded of Studio Ghibli in a lot of ways, which is definitely not a bad thing. Without spoiling too much, I will say I was quite surprised by the ending. Let's just say they did something I was quite afraid they would do, but in a way that I genuinely didn't expect that made it really impactful. I actually cried at the end of this game, and that doesn't happen very often. I thought the story overall was pretty well executed, and I really grew to care about Alba and Neva. You could say we've seen this kind of story many times before, but when it's done this well, it's hard to complain about it. While I think there are areas where Neva could improve and some things that weren't quite to my taste, I would still say it is a very high quality game with a lot of love and care put into it. So I would definitely recommend that you play it. It's only a few hours long and you'll be hard pressed to have a bad time. Heck, maybe you'll like it even more than I did. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, you can do all the stuff YouTube likes. Other than that, have a nice day. I'll catch you in the next one.